We all could rise for the pledge, please. Doug, could you lead us in the pledge, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our veterans, our first responders, those fighting the good fight in the Ukraine, and those poor individuals that lost lives in Syria and in Turkey, and pray for a quick digging out of those people in California, Oregon, Idaho, for the massive amounts of snow that they've received.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to reconvene. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Thank you. So do we have anybody that wants to talk to the town council tonight?
Mr. Walter.
Walter O'Connor, 3 Cortlandt Drive. I just want to talk briefly about a subject that was brought up among the joint council meetings, Board of Education, and in the paper with regard to bullying, specifically at Scattercoat, where my grandson attends school. Bullying has been a long-term problem. It's been since I was in grade school. It doesn't happen just in the schools. It happens at home, at the bus, wherever. Although it is a problem in the educational system, we need to give them the resources to deal with it. They are, and when they're in school, the teachers and that staff are loco parentis, but they're not parentis. And that needs to be brought up. They're not totally responsible for, the school staff, that is, not totally responsible for that. Whenever you have an act of bullying, there's 4 distinct groups that are involved in it. The bully and his cohorts, the person getting bullied, occasionally the person that tries to stop it, and everybody else that watches it and does nothing. And that's really where it is. There's an old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It's going to take a village to stop bullying. That's all.
Thank you, Walter.
No more comments, man.
Thank you. Katie?
Yes.
And to start off, we're actually, as we do each and every year for those that are watching tonight, for those that are new on the council, is we do these as it is per the charter. These are both separate budgets per the new charter change we have. So we'll be voting on these individually. There'll be the town and then the educational component. Katie?
Yes. I'd like to move to approve the mayor's recommended budget for the town, the budget being $44,190,711.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Whoops, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I think that I want to pass this. I really enjoyed watching the presentations, and everybody who came before us was, well prepared, and it was. But I can't escape from the fact that we had $8 million coming in, and we had a $5 million surplus over taxation, however you want to categorize it. In addition to that, annually, it's been an overtaxation. So I feel that part of this is tax revenue, an increase in tax revenue. Part of it's an influx in state and federal funds. But the budget was off $5 million. So I feel that part of it was in fees and services from the town, which is, a double taxing, so to speak, because we are taking in more than it costs, and it's on the back of taxpayers. It's another tax. So this budget, for example, it has 4% increase in the recreation of Parks and Rec. It has a 1% in fees, and you remember that I was fighting those little increments in the fees. The bottom line is that I think that I can't support this budget because we have to extend, if this is the year that we are going to extend the taxpayer a break, this is the year to do it. We had an influx of federal funds. I cannot support this budget as it is because we have to extend the taxpayer the same type of break that the town got from the federal and the state government. From the pandemic and the increased costs, people are hurting. Every time we go to the grocery store, we go to the gas station. And I look at this budget, and it's like the same budget of last year, sort of a rubber stamp, just raise it up a little bit. Instead of line by line, looking at where did we not spend? Where can things shuffle to give back to the taxpayer? Because we took in about 19% of our total budget in ARPA funds. So that has to now go back to the taxpayer. So I think that these increased costs, the pandemic, have hurt people. And now's the time where we dig deep into this budget and we find $900,000, 2%, to take out so that taxes do not increase. In fact, I mean, the yield curve that you referenced last time we were meeting is exactly why we should keep it flat. This is a precaution of a recession. This is not the time to spend. It's the time to save, and it's the time to be very frugal. And we should give it back to the taxpayers. So I support the Board of Education budget as presented, because they got 6% of their annual budget in funds, not 20. And they've been underfunded for almost a decade, if we look back. So I support the Board of Ed. I mean, we're going to get to that discussion, but I just want to say that up front. You know, I think that we can find $900,000 of savings. The taxes stay the same, and I think every dollar counts. This is the year that we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
I agree with you, Hillary, but also the items that were approved at the town meeting to purchase now rather than waiting till later, a number of them were planned to be in the budget that we're looking at right now, but others were not. And my concern is that we created a list of things that were good to take care of while we had the money. But this isn't good planning on my part. I feel that had we planned a little better, we might have talked about the max roof and the senior center flooring a little differently, and we might have handled a few of our projects a little differently. My concern is that we have been consistently either getting great deals and not bragging about it, or not having as many people participate, so we didn't have the expenses. But we had money, which has been approved now, $2,696,000 for the list of 16 items. And it's not a complete list. There's not enough information. For example, the Emmanuel Williamson Park fence replacement, what was on there was not the fence replacement, but the playground. And that's pretty much gone. Now there's $42,000 for the following year for the playground. I just feel that there was not enough discussion, especially from the public, on that whole spending of that surplus. And I really, of all the years, I agree, this would have been the year to put more than the $1,788,000 back toward tax mill rate reduction. We could have done more. I wish we had. I'd like to make a motion to decrease the town's budget by $900,000.
Let's vote on that.
Well,
Let's vote on it. Do we have a second?
Can we?
Can you speak to it after the motion?
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, let's speak to the motion.
So I agree with everything that Hillary and Alex has said, and I agree with the reduction of $900,000. We gave out $5 million in surplus, and I just feel at this point that a lot of departments, it was like a candy store, and it was nice that they could get it, but then they're still getting increases in their budgets this year, and I just think that it's a mistake, and I can't go along with it after $5 million being dispersed to almost every department in the town. between that and the ARPA funds, I just don't agree with an increase in the town budget.
Hillary?
I mean, just for example, the IT was up 24%. The fire department up 12%. Park and Rec's up 7%. So, I mean, those are just a couple things, but I do think there's a lot in this budget that could be, you know, come through, and we could come up with those savings for people.
Any other discussion on the motion? So I'd like to say a couple things. First of all, I 1000% disagree with you. First of all, we look at the mill rate. Mill rate's the true test of what we have. So let's go back to 2019, 2020. 1.87% increase that year. Let's go to the year 2020, 2021. A 0.09% decrease. How'd we do that? Let's go to the next year. 2021, 2022. Wow, wouldn't you know, working with the Board of Education, Wendy actually was the chair that year. We're in COVID, 2.47% decrease. Let's go to the year 2022, 2023, last year, 1.7% increase. Let's go to this year. If approved, mayor budget, 2.46%. And might I add, when you look at all the other towns, because we seem to like to do that when we talk about different budgets, what do all the other towns are? Let's see, Brookfield, almost 5%. Bethel, almost 5% increases. Well, excuse me, let me finish, as I let you finish. Okay? Greg, what was New Fairfields? We were just talking about that today. Were they kind of being around? Yeah.
I believe they're looking at close to 13%.
13%. Wow. Now, let's look at New Milford when we take a 5-year run. Katie, when I look at the year 2019, 2020, the mill rate, Tom, back then, guess what it was? 28.17%. Let's go to the back of our book, where our projected mill rate is going to be. Greg doesn't have it up there yet, but hopefully tonight, with the approval, it'll go to the Board of Finance, and then they can make their decisions. Greg, let me go back here. Let's see. It is projected 29.15%. So when we take a full 5-year track record, that looks to me like 0.98% mill increase over 5 years. Wow. That seems like pretty good stewardship to me. Now, fundamentally, I'm going to disagree with you three for this reason. This money that some of you considered as a wish list was actually hard capital that the town needs to continue to move forward. You want to throw that in the budget? Now you're at a 7% increase. I'm not for that. I'm not for that. You could be. I'm not. 7% increase? Not going to happen. This is hard capital. Let me give you some for instance. Okay? We can talk about surplus. We can talk about ARPA funding. Okay? So let's talk about the surplus first. I think we've done a phenomenal job repurposing monies. Monies that we get, exactly, Hillary, that you're talking about when we're talking about revenues. Increases in revenues because of the strength of the town. So we do get permit fees from building. Why do we get permit fees from building? Because a lot of people moved into New Milford. And what's the first thing they did when they moved into New Milford? They redid their house. They spent money. That causes fees. Also, when they came into New Milford and they decided to invest in here or buy a new house, there's a thing called conveyance fees that the town clerk gets, right? So those fees go up because of the strength of New Milford. Then, because we bond and band our money, we get what's called a bond and band premium. Greg, that's about over $1 million, right? Of that money. So those are monies that you can't budget for. Those are extra monies that then we repurpose. And we do it the smart way, which is we use capital items that have a lifespan to them. We don't use them for operations. We use it for much needed capital. I think the investors like it because we get a really good rate on our investments, better than the AAA towns, some in Fairfield County. Also, by doing this, we continue to keep our mill rate down. And you're exactly right. Inflation, prime example. The three trucks, or the 2 snowplow trucks that we just talked about using surplus funds, and we had some people on town council say, oh, wait, put that in the budget. Greg, today at the purchasing authority, we just had the bids out, and they actually now are higher than the amount of money than we budgeted for surplus.
Like 24,000.
Right. Why is that? Because of inflation. So the premise is that we want to push things off so that we can have, to the taxpayer, a higher amount of money that we have to pay, I think is foolhardy, and I think it's disingenuous to the taxpayer. I think the best thing we can do is give a budget that helps continue to propel the town for the services that they need on both the educational side and the town side. We've seen that with increased in property values. We've seen that also with people wanting to move in here, new development going on, and also investing in our educational department. So I'm hoping that this town council goes ahead and approves the mayor's budget so that it can go on to the Board of Finance for their review. Hillary?
So the fees that we charge are supposed to cover our costs in the town. We're not supposed to be making money, right? That's just sort of, I'm just going to put that out there. And then the yield curve is, when we have the precursors of a recession, we're supposed to not spend because that only further pushes us into recession, right? So that is exactly in conflict with what is probably proper fiscal responsibility. So I disagree with you on that. The other thing is, not all those items on that list had to happen this year. The new carpeting, a lot of those things are not capital essential things. They are things that could wait. There are people who are hurting, paying their rent, their bills, their gas, their oil. So this is what you have to deal with, but what about all the taxpayers and their needs? I'm saying this is time to put it back to the taxpayers because we got $8 million and we had a surplus. That means we overestimated what we need to run this town because of things coming in and less going out. So now we need to say what is before us and what makes sense for the taxpayer. That's what I'm trying to explain.
And Greg, I know you have maybe you have your book there. For the taxpayer, the additional funding year over year was about $1.78 million. And in this particular budget, for mill rate reduction and mill rate stabilization, in this budget, how much did we approve that?
788 million.
Correct. So the same amount of money that we increased the taxes on.
Unfortunately, it wasn't
Okay.
enough to keep it
That's-
flat,
Now,
right?
well,
Right.
okay. Now, your premise is that you want to give the taxpayer the money back. I think that's a great premise. But when you're talking about an inverted yield curve, I think that's what you're talking about, correct?
Yeah.
When you're saying invert, okay. So what the inverted yield curve does is give us a precursor of what could be a recession. It also tells you that interest rates are going to continue to rise. So financial smart planning would be if you have the availability to pay for a capital item cash versus waiting while inflation eats your dollar,
Pushes us into.
right? Right? Is not a smart plan. If you can pay for it cash versus either leasing it or waiting, it's going to cost you more money, i.e. just two brand new trucks, even though we've waited a few months, or an additional $24,000. How do we explain that to the taxpayer? Oh, I want to hold it off right now, but you know what? You're going to need those trucks next year, and now they'll be $40,000 more.
No, you wait till.
What do we tell the taxpayer? We wait for the trucks to be even in worse shape. We've done a phenomenal job in redeploying our assets to bring in much needed capital of stuff that needs to get done. The town has a surplus and needs to do it, as we'll talk about the next one. The Board of Education has about $4 million of a surplus. They're gonna need that for buildings, for things that they need to do for their structures. Smart planning. Do we wanna go ahead and knock that out? I don't think so.
I already said I didn't want to touch the
Oh,
board.
okay. So it's okay then to have a surplus on that
I've
side,
explained why.
but, no,
I've
I'd like to
explained
hear
why.
it, but then not have it
I
on the
will
town
explain,
side.
I can explain it perfectly.
That'd be
They've been
great.
underfunded for the last 10 years. If you look up the past 10 years, it's been an average of 1.8 increase of what they asked for. So, not only that, but they got 6% of their budget in ESSER funds, not 20% in ARPA. So that's very different, and they've been underfunded, so they're catching up. So it's apples and oranges, frankly. And a lot of things on our list I see as things that could be held off, things that do not need to be bought at the height of inflation in pre-recession,
So, just so I can understand correctly, so you're saying that a department head that says, hey, I need new plow trucks. That's what they do all day long for a job. You're saying that you don't think that they know what they're talking about?
No,
Just
that's
trying to
not,
understand.
don't put words in my mouth.
I'm
That's
not.
not
That's
what
what
I'm
I'm just
saying.
trying to say.
No,
I'm trying
I'm
to
saying there's
understand.
$900,000 in this book that could come out without much effort, without much hurting anything.
Based on your
That's what
opinion.
I'm saying. Based on my going through it, yes. So that is my
And not the
argument.
department
But
heads that came in and presented to you and said that
So
this is what
24
they need to move forward.
Well, like I said, we could go through it, but if you're saying absolutely nowhere to go, no fat to be trimmed, then what can we say?
I'm just trying to get a sense of why you want to cut $900,000.
I don't think the
Out
taxpayers
of
should,
the-
I don't think the taxes should be raised this year. I think we have an influx of funds, and this is gonna be tough times, and this is not the time. And we can do it. We can do it.
Doug, did you have something?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm just doing-
Do we have any other conversation? Okay, time for,
So she has a motion, right? She made that one?
Yep,
no,
no
oh,
seconded.
and a seconded. So we have a motion and a seconded to reduce the town side budget by $900,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Thank you. Motion does not carry. Katie?
I'll go back
We
to,
have, go back to the
I'll
rest.
go back to my motion to approve the mayor's recommended town budget of $44,190,711.
I will second that for the second time.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Katie?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the mayor's recommended Board of Education budget of $71,085,051.
Yes, enthusiastic second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to
Chris?
say something, this is Chris.
Yes.
So, first of all, I certainly want to thank all the town employees and the school employees for their dedication to their jobs and in our town. From DPW to senior center, youth agency, Park and Rec, the teachers, paraeducators, and on and on. You know, they're the ones that really make the town go function day after day after day. I do, however, have issues with the school budget. In October of last year, I informed the superintendent and Board of Ed that I wanted a transparent and robust conversation to happen regarding shared services between the town and the schools. This is the same message I said at this same meeting last year. Now, mind you, I'm not demanding any certain outcome of the conversation, just have the conversation and have it in the public eye. I believe that hundreds of thousands of dollars can be saved by combining some departments like facilities, IT, HR, finance. This is done in the private sector routinely, and has been done in multiple Connecticut towns. So it can and has been done elsewhere. I stated to them that unless this conversation happened, I would not vote for the school's budget. That conversation not only hasn't happened, I only received a nonsensical reply from a board member. We all work for the taxpayers and voters of New Milford, not another entity like the state of Connecticut. In my opinion, any public official in town who doesn't believe that should just resign. Looking at shared services can be a way to stretch precious tax dollars further. By having a conversation, we can put this topic to bed once and for all. If there are valid reasons not to combine some services, I'm happy to hear them, but not a single good reason has been given. We know there's major school climate issues that require immediate and strong actions. In my opinion, this needs to be the priority, and I don't believe it has been up to this point. Just like proper caring for school buildings doesn't seem to be a priority. I asked for maintenance records for the East Street boiler and was told my request was inappropriate and should go through the mayor. Those records should be available to any New Milford taxpayer who's interested. And also, as for adults who are claiming now they are bullied, when other adults who simply want answers to pertinent questions, I think those people are contributing to this climate problem. Their false claims of bullying diminish the claims of our children who are truly suffering. And in my opinion, is an attempt to shut down the conversation they don't want to have. So by moving some responsibilities away from the school that don't affect children directly, I think it can help the schools focus more on students. I'd also like to address the notion I hear every year this time that to really understand the Board of Ed's budget, every member of our community needs to sit through all the budget meetings. That notion strikes me as ridiculous. I served 6 years on a Board of Ed and never had a failed budget in my tenure. Once we developed our budget, we took our justification out into the community. We gave short presentations all over the place, Lions Club, Kiwanis Club, we did coffee clutches. Our superintendent would even present at a monthly meeting he held with a group of senior citizens. If you can't justify your budget in a 20 to 30 minute presentation on how those tax dollars are aligned with student achievement, I don't think you have a compelling budget. So I'll be voting no on the school budget. And I hope the Board of Ed leadership understands the concept of servant leadership. We're all here to serve the citizens of New Milford, and I hope they will at least sit down at the table this year and have a transparent discussion on combining services. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mary Jane?
I'd like to amend the Board of Ed budget to increase it by $250,000, and I'll speak to that if I get a second.
You're making that's a motion?
Yes, that's a motion. Board of Ed has been cut except for maybe 1 year. I've been on this council for 20 years, and I have watched people that are sitting on this council right now cut the Board of Education budget year after year after year. So we're now at a point where our kids are not performing the way they should be performing. And we're going to be the town is going to be the loser in the end. And we're getting to that point. You heard the presentation. They are not doing as well as they should be doing. So I think it's a hard time to get new teachers. I understand that. And there's just, the whole country is suffering because teachers are leaving the field because they're not paid enough. And I think we can't tell them how to use this money that I propose, but I would think, that it would be well spent on more mental health counselors, social workers in the schools to help take care of the bullying problem and all the other social stresses that our kids are going through, especially after several years of COVID, and they've had a really tough time. So basically, I really think the teachers deserve, the school deserves, and the kids deserve to have more money put into the Board of Education budget to make up for the last almost 20 years of cutting. And this is where we are right now. Our kids are not doing great anymore, and that's a sad state of affairs for the town of New Milford.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Okay. Do we have any additional discussion? Alex?
I'm going to support the motion, but reminding folks that we have a new superintendent who has new plans. And we don't know yet how this money could help, but I believe she's very, very aware and concerned about the issue that we've all been hearing about in the last few weeks. Actually, it goes back years. So I'd like the school system to have a little bit of extra, and that is just a little bit, to try to address this issue a little quicker. I don't have answers as to how. That's not my job.
So I'd like to say something first before I turn it in. So just for edification for myself as a taxpayer. So I just heard from you, Hillary, that we need to cut money to save for the taxpayer because they're in rough times. But now you're actually putting more money in to the Board of Education budget. So for those that are watching, how does that work?
What are you exactly asking?
I'm asking you, when we were voting on the town,
Yeah.
your whole thing was you wanted to cut.
Take out $1 million from
the
this
town-
side, put in
you wanted to take
200
the
on that
town-
side, right?
No, your premise that I just heard, and that's why I'm just asking for the clarification.
Yeah,
Your premise was that you wanted to cut the town side by $900,000.
correct.
Right?
Well,
Because
close
of
to
the
$1 million.
economy. Because the people need to save the money for the people. Okay? That's a pretty good premise. I get it. I know we're in political season, so now we're going into this education one.
Right.
And now you're saying 200,000 more to the budget. So I'm just trying to understand for the people there and myself, how does that work?
Well-
900,000 here for the people, but yet now 200,000 more for the school.
So to answer that, I mean, so I'm a teacher, right? I'm a teacher in a classroom of 22 children.
Yeah.
We have 2 full-time teachers. I was also a substitute teacher for 8 months at Scatticoke. So I think that I have some feet on the ground as far as what it takes to address this problem. It is not a stamp out easy. It is not something that teachers can just say, oh, I'll just add it on to the things that I have to do. It needs to be a program. It's gonna take funds. We all agreed the other night, this is a priority. This is something that we want to do as a town. This is not new carpeting in Town Hall. This is not, paving Adis Park Road. This is our children. So do we want to shuffle 200 from here into here? Yes, I do. So that is the argument. That is, and I don't think it has to be versus. I think we look at, I think this is our town. These are our kids, this is our town, this is the budget that we have. We want to have 0 increase to the taxes. How can we get it done? Let's do it. That's what I'm saying.
I appreciate that. First of all, I would like to set the record straight from Councilwoman Lundgren. Last 4 years, we've fully funded the schools. Fully funded them,
I think there was 1 year
It was 2 years.
okay?
that you
I
actually.
believe it's 4, but
Two.
I'll
It was
check.
2.
But I'll check. Number
But you
one,
cut the budget every single year as a town
No,
council person
and-
when you
and-
sat on
and
this
number
council.
two, as far as-
And so did you, Mr.
We've never
Esposito.
cut the budget.
as,
The
We've
Board
cut
of
the
Ed budget.
request.
By the
I've been at this
request.
consecutively for 14 years, we have cut requests.
The requests. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're
We
talking
have cut a request. We made a reduction to a request.
and,
Okay, and it's been
Well, however you
characterized
wanna
as a
code
cut
it.
for grandstanding political reasons, and I
No.
see you doing it again.
No, excuse
We've
me.
never
Stop
it.
cut this.
Stop.
We
Excuse
have
me.
reduced.
But let's just get our terms right. When we're saying reduce, we're saying Board of Education presents us their budget, and we're saying that has been cut, that number, not the prior year. We're saying what they come
Their
to us
request
with.
was
Just how you
reduced over the
said, how dare
years.
you cut the department heads things?
And they haven't,
Well, and they've been cut every year
Not
for
in
the
the last
last 10
4.
years, except
Yes,
for the
they
last
have.
two.
Last 4.
No, the last two. Let's pull it
And-
up.
never
And-
been reduced beyond the year, beyond their budget before. That is, that is the definition of a cut. Your side of the table has been playing this games for the 14 years I've been
In
here,
2016,
trying to
it's not a
characterize it
game,
as a
Mr.
cut.
Esposito.
It's a reduction and a request.
But this is
If
not
my-
a game.
If my daughter comes in and asks for $100 and I only give her 50, okay, that's a reduction in her request.
True.
It wasn't a cut, okay?
Well, it's semantics.
Okay.
It's total
So-
semantics.
stay, just just I'm trying to understand, right? So at the town, you wanted to slash $900,000 so that we could give it back to the people, because your thoughts were heading into bad economic times. Now, in this budget,
I didn't say we're heading into bad economic, I said because
You
we've
did.
been given, we possibly are heading into a recession from what you said to me the other meeting. What I'm
Correct.
saying is we've been given a lot of funding, and some of it should go back to the taxpayer, yes.
okay, and we talked about how the increase actually went to the taxpayer, the same amount we're giving back to them. And I'm just trying to understand the reasoning. So now on the Board of Ed side, you're like, let's give them $200,000 more. So I'm just trying to, and myself as Pete the taxpayer, trying to understand how in one moment you're saying that you want to make sure and lower the amount for the taxpayer, but here you are adding additional funding. So the two just don't kind of jive with one another. I'm just trying to understand it myself.
What I'm saying is we could get there if we want to. But we can get to a zero tax increase with us funding the budget that that the BOE gave us, fund that fully, we can get there. That's what I'm
To
saying.
zero. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Greg, what kind of cut would that have to be? It would have to be more than 900,000 to get to zero.
2.5%.
No.
2.5%.
Is it a cut or is it a reduction?
No. To get
Good point.
to get to zero, the Board of Ed went up $3,014,000, I believe, something like that. And the town went up as well. So you'd have to be way more than that to get to zero.
Are you saying to have a no increase? Right.
What?
Well,
Are you saying
You,
No, we didn't say.
2.5 million would get you a 0.35% decrease. So a little bit less than 2.5 million.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, 2.3?
Yeah.
Something like that.
yeah. $2.3 billion in cuts to get to zero.
Something
I
like
thought you divided, I thought it was, I'm sorry, I just looked at how you're doing this one.
Oh,
So I thought if you take $1 million out of
Let's
it,
try
you're,
2.25.
it's $1 million.
Listen, it's over $2 million to get to zero. Two and a
So
quarter
your
million.
premise would be to get to flat 900,000 out of the town, then you'd want to cut $1.1 million out of the Board of Ed?
No.
But you're saying 200,000 additional,
I said 250.
right?
It's about two and a
Me-
quarter
me-
million.
To get your mill rate, you divide 91,138,774 by the grand list?
Yes, the net grand list, yeah.
So if we subtract it, so if the 90 million becomes, so if the 91 becomes 90 million, what does that do?
Well,
Because
that's
my
another way
my
of looking
calculator
at
seemed
it.
to work it out differently.
Okay, so. No, that don't work. I'm gonna start playing with this. To get to, what would I have to do? To get to 91, I'd have to increase the revenue. If you increase the revenue, so that'd be minus 1.
I have it here, but I can't.
Increase the revenue by about $1 million to get it roughly to 90, to raise 90 million. So,
So, if we want to go to a flat budget, using $900,000 for the town, it would be, according to what you're showing us now, Greg, 1.1 million to the Board of Ed,
No.
right?
What is it?
I don't know,
No.
rephrase the question?
So,
If
we were
you,
talking about getting to a
Give it-
flat 0% increase.
All you need to do is take.
It would be a what, Greg?
okay, you would have to have a combination of either cutting expenditures by 2.25 million or adding revenue, finding revenue of 2.25 million, or a combination thereof.
Okay,
to be
You have
flat,
to balance-
essentially
You have
flat.
to balance the
Okay.
2+ million.
right. So, okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
I'm not agreeing with that amount. We're not gonna,
Doug?
we're not gonna get this passed.
So, I respect your request, for mental health and bullying, but I believe that the budget as a BOE presented is fair. I'll be voting for it. The reason why I'm voting for the increases, I believe it's an administrative problem. I don't think throwing money at something. I think the administration and the BOE now understand that there's a problem in the school. So I'm hoping with the new superintendent that they can address that, maybe make it more, let's just say a 3-strike thing, and make it more toward the bully, and have the person either sit out a month or 3 months as us parents and is expelled. It starts at home, like Walter said. This is a problem that starts at home. Bullies just don't go to school and become bullies. And so I don't think throwing money at the problem, though I respect your request, I don't think that's really going to solve it. I think it needs to start at home, and then with the new superintendent, maybe they can put some stuff in place that will deter it. So, but I appreciate it.
I respectfully disagree with that.
Okay.
Sal?
Yeah, just have a quick comment. I second what Walter said. We're supporting, I'm a Republican, I'm supporting you guys with the helping our kids with everything, right? So that's a good start, that's the way to do it, so first of all. Other than that, the budget you requested, obviously you thought about, you got the number, you presented it, so that's it, right? Why change everything upside down at last minute and introduce some voodoo economics? I don't quite understand. Why would that help anything the last second and make it more chaos? I'm voting for what it is because I think we'll have a good crew. If I made a mistake voting it for yes today, I'll see it pretty quickly. The latest probably not last year, but I have to have confidence in the leadership. Otherwise, this whole thing, it doesn't make any sense.
Tom?
I have the ultimate confidence in the Board of Ed and the leadership at the school that they can use the money that they ask for, being the professionals that they are, who spent months and months and years. Wendy is the oldest serving Board of Ed member in the state of Connecticut. There's nobody who knows numbers better than her in this. If there was a need, if they needed more, they would have come to us. Their budget is appropriate.
Excuse me, longest.
The longest. Did I say oldest? I'm sorry. The longest serving. I apologize. Sorry, sir. We're the same age. I'm right. The longest serving, and probably the most experienced person out there. Right? I mean, let's face it. There's nobody who's sat on more subcommittees and has been around, for as long as I was here and way longer. So I'm supporting their budget as it stands. If there is a need, they can always come back to us. We have never turned the Board of Ed down. And I concur with my colleague, Mr. Skelly, and some of my other colleagues. Bullying is not just in the school, it's everywhere in society. There are town employees who are bullying department heads because they're protected by the union. We have employees getting harassed by individuals from the community that don't like where you plowed the snow into their driveway or it lands on their sidewalk. This is a town-wide, is a nationwide problem that throwing money at it is not the answer. It's the punishment. As we said back in the day, when we were all growing up, bullies got confronted, okay? And when they did get confronted, many of them stopped, but there's nobody confronting them. So if you kick them out for a month, we'll see who the bully is, because you'll know if their parents show up in that office screaming at the superintendent, then it's something that has been homegrown, right? They do it again, they're out for 3 months. What do you think that would do?
I think they come back with an assault rifle, and they're the ones that are coming back and taking kids out in schools. Throwing kids out of school is not the solution. It is absolutely not the solution.
Okay.
So
So-
we'll cuddle them up in a blanket.
No, I'm not
and see
saying
if
that.
we can bring them someplace to
But
try to change their evil ways.
I'm not, I
right?
didn't say that.
Because
You're putting
they're a
words in my
product
mouth.
of their-
Excuse me, do
Okay.
not put words in my
Well,
mouth.
but that's what it sounds like,
No.
Mary Jane. That's what
Sorry.
it sounds like.
What we
Katie?
need is more social workers, mental health counselors to help the kids get through
I
this.
think
Because
they
if
put a
you
lot
keep
in their
throwing the
budget,
kids out of
and if
school,
they need them
they
next
become
year,
delinquents, and then they
that's-
end up in the jail system.
Katie?
So,
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Maybe they belong in jail.
I will be supporting the Board of Ed budget. I think, as Tom said, There's lots of very smart people. They're teachers. Hillary, you're a teacher. You're a very smart person too, and you have empathy, and you take care of the kids, as you all do. I am very happy that we have a superintendent who, I must say, I've been here a very short time, but great response, and he's, I look for great things. But I know that you've heard what all of you were here, and you've heard since, as I've heard from people in the public, that we do have a tender issue with the bullying, whether it starts at home or however it starts. But we are trusting in you and the teachers to do the best you can when you have the children with you. And of course, it's up to the community and the parents when they're not in school. But I hope that you take heed, and you do. I know you're throwing money at things, isn't it? But if you need to hire another counselor, or whatever it is you need, another SRO, I hope that you do. We can't say how we'd like you to line item something, but I hope that it is considered. And I also, as my colleague Mr. Cosgrove brought up, I do hope that we can come to the table to discuss. And as he said, it's so true, we're not asking for anything more than just a conversation about collaborating. It is done in so many other places with great success, and there isn't any reason that New Milford cannot move as much as we've moved forward in so many things that we can't do that. So I am in support of your budget, and I wish you the very best with spending every single penny.
Pete, I just need to add one more thing on what Mary Jane said. It's not the bully that comes to the school with a gun. It's the one who's being bullied, that has to stay home, that is the one that has to not want to go to school, and he feels like the school and the community is not supporting him. The bully is the one that stays in the school, is the one who's being bullied. He's the one. So if you look at the stats about it, it's usually the one who's being bullied. It's not the bully that comes to the school.
Part of the reason I was supporting this motion to put money in is because I served on the Board of Ed for 16 years, and this is a town that has a history of underfunding our schools. Absolutely. Again and again and again, speaking to what Hillary said. Yes, I know what they request, but they request what they believe this council is going to support. They're not going to go to battle for everything that they really need, because they know they're not going to get it. They haven't. That's what we did back then, too. Same thing. Message was, don't raise the budget. So the reason I was doing this, because I thought if there's an opportunity here, because we have a very distinct immediate need, if there was an opportunity to put some money into the Board of Education instead of back to last year's numbers or even what they requested. What they requested is still low. They're going to run with fewer buses. They're going to run with classrooms that they know they could use more teachers in. They're going to have to deal with all these mental health issues, and nobody knows. So I hope you all remember what you're saying, that they can come back during the next year and ask for additional funds to get the help for these kids, because they've identified the problem. They identified it last year. They knew it was coming. They tried their best. But they have not come forth with a budget that can really take care of it to the extent that they wish, because they're being honest about what they think the town's going to accept. And it starts here at the town council level.
Okay, so I'd like to say a few things myself. So we continue to hear that the town doesn't fund education, that the town doesn't do this and town doesn't do that. So for the public that's watching, I'd like to again, 100% disagree with that. Because there's things in there that the town does that helps education but doesn't show in this budget. Let me give you an example. We did the Sarah Noble roof. Just did it the other year, $3.4 million some dollars. We're doing the high school roof, $4.5 million project. Do you guys know where the payments go to? On which side of the ledger do the principal and interest payments go? Right. So the town, that's, I agree 1,000% there, and that's a whole other conversation that I hope we have. Absolutely. But the town bores those costs. Right? The town makes that commitment. Okay? So the town does in-kind services as well. When I was approached by Laura about Litchfield Transition needing a home, we do it at the max. We don't charge any rent for that. Right? When athletic gear needed to get taken care of, when the tennis courts need to get redone, the town did it with its town surplus. I can go on and on and on. And it's a collaboration of the board and the town that we're going to continue to do and work through. But I think it's disingenuous when we start talking about how we don't invest, how we're not doing things. You know, we can go on and on at the next town council meeting. I'd be happy to stand right up there and talk about all the money that we do that isn't in the budget that helps the entire community. And I find it interesting that I continue to hear, as we were talking about on the town side, how we went and used a surplus, Katie, right? And we didn't plan. But here I'm saying I'm hearing $200,000. I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but we wanna give it to them.
Well, because we can't tell them what to do.
You can't,
We
but
can't.
it's all about, from what I'm hearing, this is what I'm talking about, you gotta be consistent in your message.
we
When
are.
when you're leading, you have to,
Excuse me.
excuse me, I have the floor, then I will turn it to you.
Sure.
Okay? You need to be consistent when you lead. You need to be consistent in your message, right? The consistency I hear from beforehand was, well, this wasn't in the capital budget, Tom, so we're not planning for it properly. This isn't in the budget. Though we know 5-year capital plans turn on a dime, those of us that have been in business, right? We know that, okay? That it changes on a dime. So you have the flexibility to pivot. And the town has the financial structure to do that, which is great. But then I'm hearing, because it's election time, because then I'm hearing, right, well, let's just throw $200,000 at a problem. Let's just throw it out. We haven't had a chance to talk to the new superintendent. We haven't had a chance to talk to the Board of Education. How are you handling that? What do you need? But we're just going to throw 200 large at it. That's okay. But we haven't even talked to the superintendent yet and said, hey, Dr. Parlato, you've only been here less than 2 weeks. What do you need? You're the one running the organization, but we're going to throw 200 more large at you. But we don't know what it is.
So, are you the mayor?
Absolutely.
You are the mayor. Do you get paid 100 and whatever to be the mayor?
Absolutely.
Okay, so is it your job to know every line item in this book?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it is not my job to run the Board of Ed budget, is it? No. They came to us last meeting and explicitly spoke about a 3-alarm fire at Scotticoke. We are responding in kind. That's it. We don't need these, this is like, are you trying to have a conversation here? Because this is very strange behavior.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now we're going to go back to the strange behavior. That's an
Okay.
old playbook that doesn't wash. So here's the thing, right? The last meeting I was at, and I'm going to ask Mike maybe I wish we could put it up on the videotape, right? I didn't hear Dr. Parlato. I didn't hear Vice Chair Fallenbach. I didn't hear anybody on the Board of Ed come in and say we want more money.
No.
I didn't hear them say that. Not once. I heard them say, please support our budget. When I went to the opening meeting, when we had Dr. Pattyfoot, as she helped develop the budget, come in and talk about this is what we need, supportive, right? That's what I heard. So maybe I was at a different meeting. So
You know what? I think this conversation has left the discussion phase and has gone into the condescending phase. And I would like to say.
not condescending at all.
Yes, it is condescending. Excuse me, your attitude is condescending.
Okay.
But I
My
want to
attitude's
say,
condescending.
I would like to say that when the Board of Ed was here, they told us that the kids are not doing as well as they should be doing. They need more teachers. They said they would love to have more teachers. They'd love to have more mental health counselors. They'd love to have more services for the kids, social workers, et cetera. They did say that. It went over your head. I don't know. Not sure. But they were here and they said it. So we're not making this up. And you can ask.
Why didn't they put it in their budget and ask us for it?
Because they know they won't get it.
Oh,
Exactly. Just like Hillary said,
please.
or
I
Alex
think the
said.
conversation's over. We all seem to be in agreement that we are in approval of this
Yep.
budget. And
Absolutely.
yeah, can we vote on their motion and then vote on the?
We already voted on
We
it.
voted on
We
theirs?
didn't
Okay.
vote on the
Oh, okay.
250.
So we have what was the motion again? Thank you, Stephanie.
To amend, add like $250,000 to the Board of Ed.
Gotcha. Okay, so the motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
Thank you. Okay. Katie?
I'd like to move to approve the mayor's recommended Board of Ed budget, $71,085,051.
Enthusiastically seconded for the second time.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right. Katie? Oh, actually, we'll have Sal.
Yeah,
Sal?
it should be Sal.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
watching.
you, everyone.
Thank you so much.